everybody, welcome to the OHS Wildlife Rehab Center. We're going to tour with Miss Kelly.
Hello everyone, this is our entry area, or where people fill out their information when they bring in injured animals. And then when we get the animals, we bring them into our treatment area. This is our exam table and our equipment for anesthesia, for incubation, so that we can warm up animals that are cold, and then we assess what they need from us, and then we move on from there. Now we'll go into our nursery, our avian nursery, and in here we have more incubators for our baby birds. Once they graduate from the incubators, then they will go into our small flight cages, where they start to learn how to fly and how to eat on their own. And then eventually we will move them outdoors to a larger aviary. And we'll go there now. We're gonna go the other way. Sorry. So outdoors we have several different aviaries. Right now we have a little bit of plastic up because we had the avian flu this last year that's going around and is still out there. But once our baby birds are big enough and getting ready to be released and need more space, then we start using our aviaries outdoor to raise them until it is time for release. And if you want to walk all the way back, you'll see that we have a duck pond for our baby ducklings, or once they get large enough, then we move them out here. We have small ponds, and then we have our big pond, which is a little dirty because it's winter time right now and everything's blowing into it. And then we have 3 other areas or aviaries that we can go to from here. One is for our raptors. Our raptor aviaries, we can actually have it open so that it's one big aviary where we can watch the raptors run, or not run, fly. Or we can cut it into 3 different, the doors close and we have 3 smaller aviaries for those that can't fly yet or that we're starting out with. So we start them out in a small enclosure, and then we'll open up the doors to give them more and more space and watch how they're doing. Watch your step. Right here next to that is another aviary. We use this one primarily for crows and other birds that are mid-sized, a little bit bigger than the ones we use the smaller aviaries for. And you can see there's lots of stuff to do in these because crows need excess stimulation for their brains. So we have toys and other things. It being wintertime, we also have all of our plants from our other enclosures so that they get rainwater. And then we have one more aviary. It's out back, and it's just a private aviary for those that require a little more privacy. We also have our big flight cage, which I can take you in there. It is in the middle of being constructed or worked on right now by a Boy Scout. It's right over here. There. And being winter, it's flooded. This is our large flight enclosure for raptors, so for our large raptors. It is under construction right now, so it's a bit messy and not really put together, but that is what we use this for. So right before they get released, we want to make sure that they can fly high and fly long distances so that we know that they're safe at release. Okay. This room is mainly used for our ducklings. We have bins that we set them up in, and then they move to these enclosures that go indoor, outdoor, and that which we just saw the outside of before they go into the big duck pond. And that is pretty much our space. We're a very small center.
Hello everyone, hope you enjoyed the tour of the OHS Wildlife Rehab Center. It is where animals such as small birds come for help and care until they can be released back into their natural habitat. Today we have Miss Kaylee, who is the manager of this rehab center. She will be answering some questions in rehabilitation and what to do for birds that are undergoing rehab. Hi Miss Kaylee, thank you for meeting me and sitting down for this interview. We have some questions that we would like for your expertise and advice on.
Okay, well thank you very much for choosing us for this project, and we are happy to answer whatever questions that you have.
Okay, so the first question is, do you rescue both baby birds and adult birds? Are they handled differently?
Yes, we do rescue both adults and baby birds, and they are handled a little differently depending on the reason that they're coming in to see us, or the type of bird that they are. There are a lot of different things that determine how we handle them.
Okay. So the next question is, how often are wild birds brought into the center?
Between April and October each year is our busy season, and we get birds every day. Sometimes we will get several birds a day during that time period. This time of year, when it's winter time, we get them sporadically. We don't get them as often, and we mainly get injured adult birds this time of year.
Okay. Someone brings in an injured or sick bird. What do you do for that rescue bird? How do you care for them?
Well, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to determine what type of bird it is, and we're going to ask questions of the person who found it to find out if they saw what happened to the bird to cause the injuries, or if they just found the bird on the ground and are not sure what happened. The reason we do that is because some injuries, like head injuries, if a bird has run into a window or something like that, we don't want to put them on a lot of heat. We want to maintain their body temperature, but if you add extra heat, you can actually cause their brain to swell and make them worse. So we want to make sure we're asking all those questions of the person who has found the bird. And then we treat accordingly. Some examples, if I do have a bird that has an injury, a head injury for sure, that ran into a window, the first thing that we do is we get them stabilized. We let them rest for a few minutes because it's very stressful for them to ride in a car and be around humans. So we give them some time to decompress, and then the first thing we're going to do is make sure that they're stable. Their temperature is normal, they're breathing normal, and so forth. And then we're going to get some fluids into them because everybody knows, or you should know, that anytime that you're sick, you should always drink extra fluids because we lose a lot when we're not feeling well. And so it's the same with them.
The next question is, how long do you usually keep the rescue bird at OHS? When is it safe to release them back to their natural habitat?
That is a very good question too, and a little hard to answer because they don't all stay for the same amount of time. When we get baby birds that are healthy, they stay until their feathers, their flight feathers, have come in, and they're showing us that they can forage for food and find food on their own. We hide food, we provide different ways of feeding them so that we make sure that they're ready to be released. Now with an injured bird, they may sometimes have to stay a little longer depending on the injury, but it's the same deal. When it's coming close to the time to release them, we figure that out by watching the bird's behavior. If they're exhibiting normal behavior for that species, and they're able to feed themselves, they're grooming themselves, they're doing normal things, and they're flying successfully, then we know it's time for them to go.
Okay. What does their diet consist of? What types of foods do they eat?
All kinds of foods. So we have birds that are strictly seed eaters. We get birds that like to eat fruit. We get birds that like to eat insects. So we have to provide them with a diet that is what they would eat in the wild. So we have to research and know all these different species of birds that come in so that we can provide them with the best care possible, and our diets are catered to that species of bird.
Okay, so someone calls in about a found baby bird that is a fledgling. What do you advise them to do with the bird?
The first thing I advise them to do is to step back and watch the fledgling from a distance. So a lot of times fledglings leave the nest and they spend up to a couple of days to a week on the ground, and their parents are still teaching them very vital lessons during that time period. So we want to make sure that the parents are there or not there. So that's the key thing, is having them observe that bird from a ways and watch to see, because once you're gone, mom and dad are going to come in. And if mom and dad are coming to visit that baby, then that baby is fine and being cared for the way it's supposed to. So we don't want to remove it from its home. We want to let it be. Now, if it's several hours and you've been watching from a window inside your house and this little baby bird is just sitting in one spot and mom and dad have not come back, and this little bird doesn't look very good, like maybe its head's drooping or it's not breathing right, then that bird is in trouble, and we want you to carefully pick that bird up and bring that into us.
Next question is, someone calls about found baby bird and it's a nestling. What do you advise them to do with that bird?
So with nestlings, it's a little different. Nestlings don't usually have all their feathers in, and they cannot take care of themselves. And they're not even close to that stage where they're hopping around on the ground, so they definitely shouldn't be on the ground. The first thing we usually do is find out if the person who found that bird knows where the nest is that the baby bird may have fallen out of. If they know that there's a nest and that's where the bird came from, then we're going to advise them on how to safely re-nest that baby bird and keep an eye out for those parents. Because again, these babies do a lot better with their parents. Their parents are birds, so they can teach them proper behaviors and bird behaviors and feeding and all of that the best way. We can take care of them the best that we can, but there are a lot of things that we can't teach them because we're not birds. So if the parents are still there, we never want to take them away from the parents. So we always want to make sure we determine that regardless of the age of the baby. If they are naked and the parents aren't there, or they don't know where that nest is, then we definitely want them to keep them warm and bring them to us right away.
When you see an abandoned bird who is sick or injured at the park or on the streets, what steps do you take as a rehabilitator to rescue it?
So I take the exact same steps that I tell everybody else to take. First off, I'm going to see if I see injuries on the bird. If I see injuries on the bird, or I know that bird is definitely injured, then I'm going to go get it right away. I'm going to cover it carefully with a towel, pick it up, get it in a safe box where it's nice and dark and covered, and keep it in a quiet spot until I can get it here to my center to take care of it. If, however, I'm not sure whether it's injured or not, then I'm going to observe it, just like I do tell everybody else to do. I'm going to stand back and I'm going to observe that bird for a little bit and make sure whether it's exhibiting proper behavior or not, and then determine whether it needs to be rescued from there.
Have you ever had to euthanize a rescue bird? If so, how
often? Yes, I have. Unfortunately, when it comes to wildlife rehabilitation, the majority of the reasons that we get injured animals here is because those animals have come in contact with something that we humans have made or one of our pets. So windows, our dogs or cats grabbing them, our cars, things like that. And unfortunately, there are several times when those injuries are beyond anybody's ability to help them. And so the help that we have to give them is peace. And so that would be with humane euthanasia. Because our job is to release these animals of their pain. Excuse me. Our job is to release these animals of their pain and suffering. And by that, it either means that we release them by rehabilitating them and releasing them back to the wild, or releasing them from their suffering, if it's that bad, by humane euthanasia.
Okay. What is your favorite part of your job, and what is your least?
The least is very easy. It was the last thing we talked about. I absolutely do not like to have to euthanize an animal. It's very sad. It's very taxing on us as a whole, because these are animals we want to save, and so when we can't save a life, it also affects us. My favorite part, however, is the releases, is being able to release a healthy animal back into the wild and to watch them, for the birds, to watch them just take off and fly and fly and fly, and figure out where they're at. That is the most rewarding thing that we get to see here.
Do you have any advice for the community and when it comes to wild birds?
I do. I have a lot of different advice. Like I said before, the reason that we get a lot of birds here are because of things that we as humans have developed or we keep as pets. So my advice is, for your windows, if you have a lot of big windows and they reflect the outer, the trees and stuff in your yard, those birds don't know that that's not trees. So there are things that you can put on your windows to help safeguard those, so the birds don't fly into them and injure themselves. Also, when you're driving, be aware of your surroundings, have respect for wildlife, and avoid, obviously you're not going to try to hit them yourself, but you want to, if you're aware of your surroundings, you'll have more time to stop and not injure that bird or that animal, if possible. And if not, and accidents happen, then get out and help that animal and get it to a rehab center where it can get some help, rather than just leaving it there to suffer. Also, with your pets, train your dogs to not go after wildlife. Keep your cats indoors. Cats kill so many birds. I have cats. My cats don't leave my house. They don't have a chance to kill any birds. And I wouldn't want them to. It would really just break my heart if one of my cats were to ever get a hold of a bird. But yeah, keep your cats indoors. They don't need to go outside. Provide them with what they need, and then they don't need to bother the wildlife, and the wildlife can live safely with us. We just need to all learn how to coexist with our wildlife. We all live in the same area. We need to respect each other and our space and coexist with them.
So that ends our interview. Thank you, Ms. Kelly, for letting us interview, and thank you for watching. Bye.
You're welcome. Thank you, Kaylee.